As I say, there's only a few folk I've told this to. I mean, I told my wife a couple of years later, and she's actually quite jealous. She would love to see something like that. But no, my sister, um, I've told her because I know that she would fully believe me. But my best pal, I told him a few years after it happened. He actually got angry with me. It was just like, how dare I insult his intelligence? I don't think he could process it in his head, and that was just his natural reaction. It's just bizarre. I think he believes me now because I wouldn't shut up about it.
He's got to be fast and agile, and strike in just 4 seconds. Few flying creatures can do this. But then few have the Sparrowhawk's supreme flying abilities. He has explosive acceleration. Long legs fire him out of the blocks. Short, rounded wings powerfully scoop up the air, driving his lightweight body forwards to hit attack speed in under 2 seconds. Now at speed, he keeps a low profile, hugging the ground. This low position gives him an extra advantage. The air is squeezed between his wings and the ground, giving him a high-pressure air cushion to ride on. This keeps him airborne and saves valuable energy. But hurtling along at 50 kilometers an hour gives him just hundredths of a second to avoid a collision. Short wings are pulled in to pass through the tiniest gaps. A long tail does the steering, constantly making fine adjustments. When he needs to turn sharply, he slams on the brakes by fanning it out. As he gets closer, precision flying becomes critical. He needs to stay hidden until the very last moment. The last thing a garden bird might see is this. It's all over in seconds.
Life is made out of atoms. Atoms behave quantum mechanically, and one thing we need to dispel right at the outset is your little model here. Ball and stick models, for most purposes in biology, seem to be adequate. When we're talking about quantum biology, it's true that the balls and the sticks, that is, that the shapes and chemical affinities of the molecules requires quantum mechanics, but we're after something else. We're after all that sort of creepy, weird stuff like tunneling and entanglement and so on, playing a role in biology. Why should that be so? Well, I think one answer is that life has been around for a long time, 3.5 billion years on this planet, at least, and there's plenty of time to learn some quantum trickery if it confers an advantage.
When you say quantum trickery, you're distinguishing between quantum phenomena in the little balls and then organism taking advantage of quantum phenomena to get an advantage in the biological competition.
Right, so supposing some of this weird stuff that we're going to talk about confers an advantage, doesn't have to be huge, maybe a factor of 2 or even 50% in the speed of some reaction or some more efficient process, then it's no surprise that biology will have selected for that after such a long period of trial and error. So that's one argument. And then the other is that, of course, we can always think about life's origin. Life came out of some sort of molecular milieu, we don't know what it was, that was quantum mechanical, and maybe it's retained some of its quantum origins. That's more speculative.
That something from nothing business is always a sign that there may be some quantum explanation, that's for sure, and we'll come back to that. Seth Lloyd, I said it.
We're past down towards Glen Eagles. I don't know if anyone will know where that is, but it was on the road between Mouthal and Glen Eagles. It was a windy day. There was lots of leaves flying off the trees going from right to left. And as I drive along, usually spot birds of prey, and I think that's pretty cool. And I saw one, and it was moving really fast towards the road from the left-hand side. And I'll know now that it was a sparrowhawk, but at the time I hadn't a clue what it was. I thought it was quite strange. And automatically you think to yourself, well, what's it chasing? Because it obviously wasn't just out for a casual fly past. And it was at that moment that I saw...
Yes, and many children see them too. About 75% of the world's children today are being born with etheric vision. And when your children talk with people and have daydream playmates, the chances are they are actually speaking to some of these people, because these angels or angelic forces, or nature spirits as they're often called, will often make themselves seen.
Whatever it is, it looks every bit like a fairy and very little like anything else.
But seriously, it kind of looks like a fairy. Just kind of doesn't look like your standard moth.
I know that the paranormal is real. Listen.
But I wasn't going to make this video until I looked a little bit closer, and I realized after it lands behind my bench, it disappears. It just vanishes. And in fact, I went outside to look, to try to find it, to see if it was trash, to see if it was a bug, to see if it was a leaf, like trying to figure out what it could be, and it was gone. It just vanished.
What's that? Yeah. Look. What's what? Yeah, look. Right up there. Insect or something.
Is that an insect? Let's have a look. What is it?
I don't know. Oh my god!
Ugh.
What happens to people who cut down fairy films?
Did you see it? Huh? Did you see it?
Yeah, me and him saw it.
What'd you see?
It was like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard?
The paranormal is real. Is it? The paranormal is real.
Welcome everybody tonight to Fascinating Fae. Tonight, we're traveling to Scotland to talk with Albert. Albert, how are you this fine evening, sir?
I'm very well indeed. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Well, certainly the thanks flow from this side of the mic most because I do really appreciate you making yourself available to tell me your story. But additionally, just for the audience listening, it's a little hard at times to get from Canada to the Scottish Isle, the UK. And so Albert was kind enough to set up Facebook specifically to, be available for this call. And I do want to just appreciate that for myself. So thanks for that, bro. And thank you on behalf of the audience too. I mention it only because one of the things for me in hosting the show that I look for is a commitment to the story being told. I kind of want to bring people on who I can tell do want to tell their story. And so things like Maddie from, Argentinian Amazement, both like setting up Facebook again so that we could talk, and additionally like using Google Translate is one example. This is no small feat for you to set up Facebook, so I really do appreciate it, and I wanted to acknowledge that quickly. With that said, moving forward here, what we're going to hear today is a story predominantly about a dryad sighting. This occurred in the sort of mid-20-teens, and I'll let Albert do the rest of the storytelling beyond that. Albert, just before I bring you on, I just want to say a couple things before I finish here. I say this at the start of just about every episode because sometimes people are tuning in for the first time. And so here on Fascinating Fae, we are not attempting to convince me or the audience of anything. It's not about that here. This is a place where you get to tell your story in your own words, and I get the privilege thereafter of asking all of my curiosity-inspired questions. And that's pretty much the format of the show. So what I like to really ask people to do, and in this case, we're going to hear about your dryad sighting first, but later we're going to talk some orbs as well. But let's just focus with the dryad sighting to begin with. You have all the time you need. Please give us some context. So, tell us again where you were, when this was, what you were doing. And then just in your own words, please, if you could, Albert, be so kind as to walk us into your encounter with the dryad.
Yeah, no problem. It actually happened on the 21st of August 2016. It was a nice day. It was a Sunday. I remember that. And I decided to go for a walk. I like walking up the hills and the like. So the wife and two kids came with me, and we went to a small town in Scotland called Killin. We went for a walk up the hill there, and I remember it well because when we parked up, it was in the middle of this very small housing scheme, and there was a stone monument there, and on reading the inscription, it turns out it was the site of a giant's grave. And I remember thinking that was pretty cool. So we spent the afternoon there, certainly, dotting about, and there was a hill at the back of the village that we climbed up. And it was on the way home. We passed down towards Glen Eagles. I don't know if anyone will know where that is, but it was on the road between Mewthal and Glen Eagles. It was a windy day. There was lots of leaves flying off the trees going from right to left. And as I drive along, usually spot birds of prey, and I think that's pretty cool. And I saw one, and it was moving really fast towards the road from the left-hand side. And I'll know now that it was a sparrowhawk, but at the time I hadn't a clue what it was. I thought it was quite strange. And automatically you think to yourself, well, what's it chasing? Because it obviously wasn't just out for a, casual fly past. And it was at that moment that I saw it was like an orange light appear above this row of trees. And it wasn't a steady light. It was steady in position, but it was kind of flickering. And from this sort of orange light, this thing appeared. And it was quite a distance away, and I couldn't really make it out at that point, but I knew it was flying. You could see it kind of batting type of wings. And it appeared, really solid looking then. And it was moving towards the road as well. And as I get closer, I realised that its wings were actually like sycamore leaf shaped. It was, but I'd say they were slightly jaggier. The maple and the sycamore leaf looked really similar, and it was either one or the other. But it was actually like segmented like a butterfly. The two sides of the wing were in two parts. And what got me was that the middle section, instead of it being a stem, it was like this humanoid figure. just sort of hanging there. The motion of it flying though was really weird. It was almost like a bat. And originally thought that must be, you try and convince yourself of this. And it flew towards the road, but it would stop and look back at this bird chasing it, hover for a wee minute, and then sort of go again. And it done that 3 times. And as it got closer, I mean, the kids were in the back seat. One was asleep, listening to music on headphones, and the other was totally engrossed, and it was the Nintendo DS XL that was out at the time. And yeah, they were sort of playing away with that and totally oblivious to it. My wife, she was sat next to me in the car, and she never, ever sleeps in the car. She just doesn't do it. But on this occasion, she was sound asleep. And it all happened that fast, and it was sort of jaw-droppingly weird that I never even thought to wake her up and point it. So it's getting closer and closer, and as you're driving along, you're judging it, and I'm thinking, right, I'm going to hit this thing. If it carries on at the same speed, I'm in a direct collision course for it. So I actually took my foot off the accelerator slightly, thinking it'll go in front of me, but at that, it slowed down as well, and it's hovering just at the side of the road. It's almost like it's waiting for me to come. I don't know if it was trying to entice the bird into getting hit by the car. But as I got closer, I could actually get a really good look at it. I mean, at its closest point, it was just right outside the sort of driver's side window, about 2 foot away, so I got a really good look at it. It wasn't pareidolia. It certainly wasn't a bat, it wasn't a bird, and it certainly wasn't your average leaf. Its body, it was kind of light coloured. Well, the actual wings or leaf, it changed colour. When it first appeared, it was a kind of yellowy, pinky colour. But as it got closer, it was turning more orange. And when it realised that I could see it, it looked straight at me. And it was a look of pure panic in its face. And it actually, just moments before the car would have hit it, it raised one knee up and sort of crossed its arms in front of it in a kind of protective stance almost. Yeah, it was bizarre, but it didn't actually, or I was waiting for some sort of impact on the sort of windscreen, but there was nothing. So I don't know if the wind actually took it right over the top of the car, the sort of airflow, or it disappeared, or what happened. It was very bizarre. I thought about stopping the car and getting out and having a look, but then this overwhelming sort of voice inside my head goes, don't even think about it. And then I thought to myself, well, what would you do anyway? I mean, would you take it to a vet if it was injured? Would you take it to the police station? It was like, no, it's just too weird. So I actually just carried on driving. But there was a car coming the other way, I remember that. And it slowed down as well. It seen it and must have thought the same thing, that it was going to hit it. So then I realised, well, I didn't hallucinate it because that boy there seen it as well. It was bizarre. I actually started laughing. I mean, I've been into all things strange for many, many years, well, since I was a kid, and had some kind of weird things happen. But I thought if I was going to see anything, it would be, a full-blown apparition, or, a grey alien, or a Bigfoot, or something like that. But a fairy, it was just like, oh my God, I actually started laughing. It's like winning the lottery, but not being able to tell anyone about it. Because, it's the one thing that you just can't really talk about. Over the years, I have, entrusted the story to a few folk with sort of mixed responses. But, yeah, it's finally good to actually get it out there and talk about it more fully. Yeah, as it was actually happening and coming towards the car, time did almost stand still. It did seem like about 10 minutes in total, where it only took about 3 seconds. I mean, just all the different sort of conversations I was having with myself, as in, this just can't be real. And I was going over all the different options in my head, like, right, it's not a bird. I'm pretty good with wildlife and stuff, and that is not a bird. And I thought, what if it's a bird with really tattered wings that's been half eaten by something and is flying away? But when it got that close that I could see it, I used to be a gardener, so I'm pretty good at plant and tree identification, and it was definitely either a sycamore or a maple. I've actually, since then, a few years back, I went back to that spot and walked up that line of trees, and yeah, there are sycamore trees in there. And the fact it was flying against the wind, I know it wasn't just a leaf. It was about, what would you say, 8 to 10 inches wide. That was including the wings. It was amazing. Its body was just perfectly defined. I don't know if you had them in Canada, but over here years ago you got things called action men. It was like a really slender, skinny one of them.
Yeah, do you mean like a action figure, like a G.I. Joe?
Yeah, aye, like a sort of boy's toy sort of thing. It was almost like that, because as it got closer, I remember thinking it was that close, and I realised it was a kind of humanoid form. But I remember noticing it had no genitalia at all, and it was just kind of smooth, and it had pecs, but like defined, but no nipples. Its head was elongated, but flat at the top. It almost looked like there was a Marvel film, and there was a character called Groot in it, and it was this wooden twig-like thing. Almost like a smooth version of that, but flat across the top of the head.
Oh yeah, from Guardians of the Galaxy, that guy.
That's the one.
Fun fact about that character, that is voiced by Vin Diesel.
Well,
Albert, sorry to jump in.
That's okay.
And thank you for letting me. I feel the need to jump in because I want to be able to respond constructively to everything that you've just told me. And everything that you've just told me is extraordinarily captivating. It is so detail rich. And if it's okay with you, if I have your permission, I'd like to kind of just hit rewind and go through this step by step with you in slow-mo, asking some questions as we go.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely.
First things first. Wow. Wow. Okay. Second thing, everything you're saying that I want to lead off with that like really helps me in listening to you are the following. You're a gardener. You're somebody who knows what a little bit more than casually what animals and plants are doing, should do, look like, etc.
Yeah.
And that makes you a trained observer of a type. Right. I'm also picking up from you that like you're a lover of the natural world, and so like as you're pointing out driving, you see birds of prey, etc. That's all like the mark of somebody who's observant of where they are and what they're doing. And not everybody is that way. I mean, straight up, some people are trying to drive and be on their cell phone at the same time and might not have even noticed this thing happen. So I appreciate that you're coming to it from a perspective of objectivity and able to kind of delineate all the corresponding factors to this storytelling, including, not the least of which, is the fellow coming the other way slowing down. Mm-hmm. And that being like a confirmatory real world response to a stimulus that you're not sure necessarily is real world behavior. So that's really like, for me, I saw my fairy with another person sitting beside me. And had that not happened, I would have been telling my story much like you told it just now. So I really appreciate you being able to kind of objectively poke holes in your own perception and come out the other end going, yeah, but no. Okay, so like that's all the stuff I want to say to begin with. Mm-hmm. Now, let's just go back for a second. So you're coming down this lane. By the way, one quick question before I get there, before I forget. Pareidolia, can you define that for me? Is that where people think they see something in a bush?
Yeah, It's just your eyes playing tricks on you. You know, if you look at the clouds and you see it in the shape of something, um, yeah, I tried so hard to pull it apart and go, no, it wasn't that, but it was, you know. It's just,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's paranoia. Yeah, just seeing things that aren't there.
Listen, I think that one of the other things that you're saying is like you've told people about this story with mixed responses. Let's just be honest. It can be pretty difficult to tell a story about seeing a fairy. It's probably the most taboo subject matter in the paranormal community.
Absolutely.
And I don't even know that there's really a community to speak of. I just mean in the world of stuff that you can find associated to the paranormal, fairies are kind of relegated to the lowest rung. And like saying you saw a fairy or like that you have a video of a fairy or a picture of a fairy is going to bring mockery.
Absolutely. Social suicide.
Like way beyond saying, oh, I saw a Sasquatch, or way beyond saying I saw a ghost.
I'd love to see a full apparition or a Sasquatch. That would have been my two top picks. But that's why I burst out laughing. I just couldn't believe it. It was like, of all the things that, you know, you sent for me to see, it had to be this, the one that you can't talk about.
It's interesting. I also burst out laughing, but in mine, I associate that to like the fairy that passed through the wheelhouse of my boat, imparting some sort of, you know, light-filled love energy that I was then like reacting to almost hysterically and in a happy kind of hysteria. Mm-hmm. With yours, I get it. It's more just like the laughter of almost like the irony of the thing that you are going to see ends up being the thing that's like the least easy to talk about. Yeah, I get it. Okay. So that's like really good set and setting for the audience listening. Like, I mean, people have to understand when I do listen to and talk to people, sometimes I just turf an episode for whatever reason. I don't put it out. Mm-hmm. But in this one, I can already tell I'm going to be putting it out because of everything that I've just talked about. And I kind of just like to let the audience know at times, like what the creative process for the show looks like. So there you have it. That's a person telling the truth. Someone who has taken the time to like install Facebook just to tell me. Somebody who is, as they're telling, is taking like literally just about every fourth sentence was a check, like a pulse check. Well, like, you know, where you're like, no, it wasn't pareidolia. No, it wasn't this. The car was coming the other way. So it's like a very nuanced type of thing that I'm looking for, which is like that astonishment paired with trying to make, like, rationalize it away, finally culminating in not being able to, and then definitely like wanting to talk about it. So that's really cool. Okay. So you're driving along and this original bird of prey, can you tell me about how high in the skyline it is? Is it up above the trees? Is it already...
No. I'd say it was maybe halfway up the trees. It was going quite low. Yeah, I originally thought, I thought buzzard, because it's like a juvenile. It had sort of white markings underneath its wings, and I thought, no, it's too small. And the way it had its wings bent back, then I thought, well, peregrines, they've got the kind of white markings under the wings, and it was sort of flying like that. It was going for it.
Yeah, you do see that. You do see the white when they tuck and dive.
Yeah, but later I checked it up for many years to research these things. I think it was a Sparrowhawk. Yeah, definitely. But it was only about halfway up. It wasn't high up at all. The actual fairy thing, the light was just above the trees. But when it came out, it came down slightly to about the same height as the bird.
Interesting. So that's what I was trying to piece together, and that's what I was wanting to ask. So, because I do recollect that you said there was an orange light that was in a fixed position but was flickering.
It looked like an old TV program, you know, like really old movies and stuff. They're kind of juddery almost, old black and white films and stuff.
in older movies, that's due to a reduced frame rate to what we're used to seeing in current like 4K, which is like, literally 4,000 frames a second, I think is what it is.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah. So I have that wrong. 4K is about the amount of pixels, but the frame rate for modern cinema is like infinitely faster than old like film stock that was literally capturing moving images on pieces of film. And that's why old movies kind of look like a flip book a little bit. So that's what you're saying. It kind of looked like that. Okay.
Exactly like that. Yeah.
That's a great visual. So orange flip book kind of flicker. And this is just above the trees.
Just above, yeah.
Is the falcon lower than it at this point when you originally see it?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
Interesting. So if I get this correctly, it almost sounds like the bird of prey, we'll call it a sparrowhawk because that's what you've said, was diving at it before it was there. Almost is almost what it sounds like.
Yeah, I obviously could see it. It was really going for it. It was definitely, after it. Yeah, and that's before it was actually, visible to me.
Visible to you. Okay, so sorry to jump in. I say I hate to interrupt, but I'm just really wanting to like get at something here. If this is like a debate, right? Be it resolved that animals can see the Fae full time.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think. And that suggests that the falcon is seeing it. And then it further suggests to me, and again, I wasn't there. Like, I know you didn't tell me in the story that you remember me being in the seat next to you. So I wasn't there. I'm just listening objectively and trying to connect to what I'm like learning, I guess is the best way that I could say what I'm trying to do here. So be it resolved, the animal world can see the Fae full time. This falcon is seeing this thing. It's diving for it. And then it, in an attempt to get away, is either one of two things. Trying to get away, like by ingressing into the third dimension for some way to get away, you know what I mean? Or is temporarily so freaked out by being pursued that it is no longer keeping itself invisible, so to speak.
That's what I think. I lean more towards that it was so shocked it just, appeared, it kind of just slipped rounds.
What's amazing about that insight is that Vicky, a woman I spoke to, when I told her about my fairy, she hadn't heard my show and she hadn't heard my encounter. And what she said, because I talked about how it came in really fast, paused between us, and then took off. There's so many things I want to talk to you about, the way it moved with yours in a second. But Vicky said to me, maybe it was scared and it momentarily dropped its guard, and that's why you saw it. Now, I sort of like gave her more context, and then afterwards, because I didn't want to correct her, but I didn't think that was true of my sighting, but it is very true, it would appear, of yours.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially as it got closer, the changing of the colour sort of got more solid the closer it came. And also when it saw me looking at it, the look on its face was priceless. Because you could see the panic when it was looking back at the bird, and it was like it was baiting the bird. It was just kind of just staying enough in front of it, so it was trying to get it to fly into the car almost. That's what it came across as. But when it saw me actually looking at it, it was like just shock in its face.
It tracks that what you're saying there tracks, because these things can move like snot. Like the bird is not faster than a fairy.
Yes.
So this wasn't in any real. Well, it's hard to say. I mean, listen, I don't know for sure. Maybe some fairies are slower than others, but winged fae tend to be pretty precise flyers.
It was really shifting. I mean, you can imagine how fast the Sparrowhawk was going in, full attack mode. It was shifting. And this thing, in the bursts, because it was only flying in bursts, then it would stop, hover, look back, and almost wait on it getting closer, then it would go again. And, it was really motoring. Because I also thought, what birds can hover? And you're talking, well, hummingbirds, you don't even get them here, and it certainly wasn't one of them. The only one's a kestrel that you get in Britain, but no, there's no chance.
They don't have upright bodies, wings like leaves.
No.
They don't have butterfly-style wings. They're too small.
The way the body hung below the wings as well, you know, it was from where your shoulder blades would be, and it was kind of hanging rather than, you know, it's hard to explain. But the way it moved its wings as well, it was almost like bat flapping type thing. It wasn't smooth like a bird or anything. Yeah, it was stunning, absolutely stunning. I wish I had a dash cam at that point. That would have been fantastic.
Right, no doubt. Well, you've got the dash cam in your head that is powered by, you know, your eyes and the incredible capacity to collect information full time with that set of tools. And so you're doing an amazing job of sharing this event for me and for the audience. And I gotta say, I mean, Albert, I'm like captivated, a little bit excited because I don't want to miss the 10 more questions I want to ask about what you've told me. And, and just again, super appreciative of this dialogue. This is some fascinating conversation, my friend.
As I say, there's only a few folk I've told this to. I mean, I told my wife a couple of years later, and she's actually quite jealous. She would love to see something like that. But no, my sister, I've told her because I know that she would fully believe me. But my best pal, you know, I told him a few years after it happened. He actually got angry with me. It was just like, how dare I insult his intelligence? I don't think he could process it in his head, and that was just his natural reaction. It's just bizarre. I think he believes me now because I wouldn't shut up about it.
You know, Jem, a fellow UK resident who I just recently interviewed for her episode Ring Ring Gnome's Home, she gets a lot of angry responses. And I don't, like, I get them too, but the thing with me is, like, I don't, like, I mean, you've listened to my show enough that you've probably got the sense of me, but in the back end, I don't really take crap from anybody. Like, I'm an extremely, almost to a fault, self-possessed person. So, like, when someone starts to try to go there with me,
yeah,
I can now wave 25 fairy stories in their face and tell them to shut the heck up.
Yeah.
And come back to me when they've listened and done their homework and now have something constructive to say. But if it's just you or just Jem trying to tell your own individual fairy story in isolation, with evidence or not, it becomes a target for that type of thing, even from a friend. And in my case, I have a good friend. I told them I started this show, and they're just like, oh yeah. I'm like, this is like a good friend, right? And I'm like, yo, like, bro, like, the show's doing really well. Look at all these reviews. Look at all this audience growth. And they were like, yeah, like, it was like you're saying, like, I think they felt like I was making a fantasy-based role play podcast or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think my pal, he knew that I believed it because the way I was talking about it. I don't think he could process it. I don't know if I could have, you know, if someone had told me before it happened that it happened to them.
I would not have believed somebody that told me they saw a fairy before I saw mine.
But now I believe, well, until proved otherwise, I'll believe everyone because, I mean, you know, who's to say what's out there and what's not? Because, yeah,
if I could make a Boy Scout badge of what you just said, those past two sentences, and sew it onto my chest, I would, because, like, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I'm like, listen, and I gotta say again, I don't always know that I'm doing a good job hosting this show, because, like you, I have this objective kind of, like, you know, this is woo woo, whatever. People are just pulling my leg. I'm pulling my own leg. I kind of, like, half of me, well, maybe less than half these days, but half of me was bothered by the fact that this had happened to me, because it just kept coming up, and I was like, fuck, this fucking fairy thing just keeps coming in my mind. Like,
it's funny, isn't it? Because not a day would go past without you thinking about it.
Yes.
umpteen times a day, you know, it'll just pop into your head. And it is just so funny, it's bizarre. And yeah, it's brilliant. But it is like winning the lottery. I mean, money can't buy that. But you just, you know, can't talk about it very often. That's how I'm glad I'm doing this, because I really wasn't wanting to, you know, get it out there. But yeah, it's about time. I'm starting to forget things because it was so long ago. And yeah, I just wanted it down there. So.
Well, listen, again, like just even in this like sort of side dialogues we're having, I'm getting a lot of comfort because it really reminds me of like my original astonishment. It reminds me of my original recalcitrance to speak about it. And I just really appreciate you. Thanks a lot, Albert.
No, no problem.
May I please carry on with some more of my questions around what you saw?
Absolutely. Fire away.
Because I haven't even gotten into like the appearance details really. I was just trying to make sure I got how this thing appeared in your reality correct. So I'm just going to recap and you can tell me if I'm wrong anywhere. So you originally see the bird, then you see this orange flickering light. The fairy emanates from it and basically materializes into more of a visible form. And then when it's moving ultra fast, but then stopping in position, and then moving ultra fast and stopping in position.
Yeah.
I just got to say, when my fairy moved, it moved like lightning and then stopped on a literal dime.
Yeah.
It's too precise. Nothing can move from that fast to that stop.
Yeah. That was instant.
It just like, I've wrestled with that particular aspect of what I visually saw for a long time. And you're maybe the first person, I'm pretty sure you're the first person that has had an analogous visual sighting of what I'm talking about. It moves like faster than a diving bird.
Yeah.
Like a laser, but then it stops also so precisely, and then it moves and it stops and it moves and it stops. That's fascinating to me because I was like, let's just talk about when it stopped. Was it like a complete stop when it was hovering, like in between bursts?
Oh yeah, I mean no movement at all apart from its wings still. And you could see it looking back. It would sort of turn its head round and look back. Its arms were moving, you know, just in a kind of natural position. But yeah, and then it would just go for it again, stop. And 3 times it done that, the stopping and looking back. And it was just waiting, you know, right, I'll let you catch up a bit, then I'll go again.
That just tells you how fast they move. I talk about how fast fairies move pretty much like every third episode or fourth episode, especially when someone has seen a winged one moving in the air. It's faster than the wings should be able to move it, is what I would say. And like, because wings can't move something that fast, that precisely. And certainly little gossamer looking wings, a few inches tall, at a thing's back for that matter, like the aerodynamics don't make sense. The wings are definitely part of the fairy moving around, but they're also almost not. It's hard to explain. It's really hard to explain.
The wind that day as well was really strong, and it was flying into the wind. I'd say the wind's maybe sort of 25, 30 mile an hour, and it's flying into the wind. And also there's all these leaves blown about in the air, you know, and it's dodging all them. And it was fascinating.
That's really fascinating. And I can like visually get the picture of like you're driving, there's all that motion there. The bird is diving, that's got motion. The leaves are blowing, the wind is blowing right to left. The bird and this thing are coming left to right. It must have just looked incredible against that landscape of motion because, you know, when I saw mine, it was a still clear night and this thing came sailing in and then took off. And I didn't really have any other contextual things moving in my immediate field of vision to compare it to. So I just really appreciate that picture you're painting.
What I'll do after the show is I'll send you a link on Google Maps of that where it actually took place, so you'll be able to see it. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that you went back to see if there were sycamore leaves, and I'm so glad you said a sycamore leaf and a maple leaf because I don't really know what sycamores look like.
They're very jaggy.
Yeah, I get it in my head now, like it kind of like a maple leaf. I think I think I can picture a sycamore leaf now that we're talking about it. But so that's not a normal winged animal wing shape at all.
No.
And you said it was segmented, right? So meaning when you look at a butterfly has like a bigger top part of the wing and a lower bottom part of the wing.
That's right, yeah. It's like two wings each side almost.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, it's almost like two wings either side. But it did put together, it just made the perfect, we'll say, sycamore leaf. And if this thing stood perfectly still, shut its eyes, and just stood up straight with its arms by its side on a branch, you would never see it. It's just, would emerge completely into a tree.
I do believe that many Fae take a form that allows for them to relax their cloaking, if you would, and just be in the third dimension doing stuff because the form that they're in is effectively invisible. And I mean, I don't know how deep into the catalog you are, but I've talked to multiple people that have visually seen shape-shifted Fae shape-shifting in front of their eyes. Jem in particular has a video of a Fae, like sort of being a Fae, jumping and turning into a frog almost mid-jump.
Wow.
And then that frog jumping in an incredible way off the ground up extremely high in a straight shot line into some ivy in this 200-year-old rock wall in her garden. And, like what you're describing is interesting because it's like, well, I think I guess what I'm trying to get at is I think you saw that fairy, how it looks. And when I saw mine, I felt like I saw it how it looked. Like it wasn't putting on a shapeshift. It looked identical to itself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Also, like now, okay, so not to talk too much about my own encounter, but truly, Albert, you're one of the few people that have actually seen something very analogous to mine. And the movement part, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I'm glad somebody's finally come on the show that saw this thing move like I've seen mine move. And I mean, others have, but I don't think anyone has seen it as fast. And then the stopping and then going back to fast. But moving on, I think we've talked about the wing shape, but I wanted to just really ask about the wing gossamer. So you said it was sort of like a dragonfly material. Is that accurate?
It was just like a leaf. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to distinguish the difference. If it stood next to a normal leaf, yeah, exactly the same.
Oh, like a leaf. Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. All right, so now let's talk about the body and face of this thing for a moment. I'm going to just preface this by talking about mine for a second. Again, I don't like to do that too much, but it's relevant here, I think. When I saw mine, what I tried to say to people is it looked like it was a woman shaped, and it looked like kind of a combination between a mud flap girl that you see on the back of a dump truck or something, like a mud flap girl kind of, but also like a girl symbol for this is a female washroom. And it was so hard to describe because it didn't really have traditional features or clothing or anything like that, but it was definitely female humanoid shaped, unmistakably, wings at its back. And in my case, it was emanating, like the body of it itself was the source of light in my encounter. It was emanating a purple, unbelievable light. So that's mine. Okay. Now let's just kind of dig into yours like more slowly. So when you finally get close enough to really say that you can see this thing looking back, my first question has to be, are you looking at eyes?
Yes.
Wild.
Yes, definitely.
Elongated head, you said. So like Groot.
Yeah, from the forehead up, just elongated. Not massively. Like South America, they done the kind of head binding. You'd see. It was almost like that, sort of same dimensions almost.
So, okay, so now in addition to eyes, are you seeing mouth, nose, etc.? Wow.
No, obviously not eyelashes or eyebrows. There was no hair on it at all. Perfectly smooth. I mean, you could see pecs on the body and sort of muscle definition, but it's just totally smooth. Fingers, Arms, hands, obviously, legs, feet. I never noticed toes, so I don't know if it actually had toes. I wasn't looking. But it did sort of raise in a kind of brace for impact kind of position. It raised one knee up, sort of on its body, and kind of crossed its arms. But yeah, there was definitely eyes because it was looking straight at me. And then it was looking kind of panicked, obviously with this bird chasing it. And then when it saw that I was staring straight at it, it just looked kind of shocked almost. It was, yeah.
Do you think that it found itself first of all, the fact that you're like detecting emotion from the eye is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That you're talking about some incredible level of detail, and I'm a little envious on some level. I don't know what I'm feeling right now. I'm just like, wow, you got to really see its face and see it reacting in a way that you could recognize at a human level with basically corresponding human emotions. Like, sometimes I watch the squirrels outside my house fight, and I try to like ask myself, do I really see them in their face, like they're about to fight or whatever? And if I'm honest, they don't, they have like a little bit of facial expression range, but not much. Most animals don't really have a ton of facial expression range. Some dogs are pretty good at it,
Yeah.
Your cat, though, I mean, let's be honest, it's kind of hard to read your cat's facial expressions, right?
Yeah, they just try and stare you out.
Yeah, you can read your cat's like physical behavior and other cues, but you can't really read its face. You can't read a fish's face too well, I don't think. So, and birds are kind of in that like zone of like unblinking black eyes. So, not a ton of. Mm-hmm. So you're not looking at a bird if you're talking about seeing eyes, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, no, definitely not, no. Because it changed emotion about 3 times, as I say, just instantly. I mean, this whole thing only took maybe a couple of seconds, although it felt like, as I say, about 10 minutes. I mean, it went from panic about the bird to astonishment that I could see it. And then it was like, it's almost sort of pursed its lips and a kind of sort of squinted its eyes, and when it was bracing for impact, it was just like a human would react, I suppose. Yeah, I wish I knew what happened to it after it either disappeared or, the wind took it over the car, because it was totally silent. I thought there'd be, if a leaf hits your car windscreen, you can hear it, but there was nothing at all, and it was just instant. It was gone, and so I don't know if it did fly over or what. But the bird, it actually carried on and swooped left, and then just away, as it got close to the car. So it definitely escaped the bird, I know that.
Interesting. So, okay. So, if I may, I kind of want to pick up the me just recapping what I think has happened here, and then we'll move along. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So it appears out of that orange flickering light. It's kind of doing like a 3-part move, pause, move, pause. In that quick span of what's happening, I get it. It's like shock that you can see it. Then you're talking about it almost about to be hit. This is the part I'm a little less clear on, and I want to make sure I understand correctly.
Uh-huh.
I think what I'm understanding, Albert, is that it found itself, at least in a moment, like in a tricky spot where it had originally been trying to dodge this bird, but then kind of now found itself maybe about to be hit by you, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Was it right in front of the car when it pulled its knee up into the kind of the brace position?
Yeah, I'd say it was only maybe 2-3 meters away by this point.
And it was doing one of its hovers, I'm guessing, when this is occurring.
Yeah, I'd stopped just on the road. Well, not on the road, but, road, in path of the car sort of thing. But it was like it was waiting for the bird to kind of come along and get hit by the car. It was like it was trying to bait it. But yeah, when it raised its knee up, it was only, a couple of meters away. And then, as I say, I was doing about 50 mile an hour, but I slowed down. Not hit the brakes, but I just took my foot off the accelerator to try and avoid it. And it actually stopped as well, obviously. And At its closest point, it was just right outside the windscreen, and you're talking, for drivers to passenger side windscreen, 2 feet.
Was it out to the left of your passenger window? Was it out to the left of your driver's window, or was it out the front of the front windscreen?
It was out the front.
Out the front, and interesting. I mean, not just with myself, but many fairy encounters tend to suggest that interdimensional entities do have the ability to pass through physical third dimension objects with ease. So I find it very, very interesting that it was bracing for impact. Because it seems to run not counter to, but it's just a very interesting layer of new information around. Because here's also, like, I want to just pick this apart. Sorry, I don't mean to say that you're saying something incorrect. That's not what I'm getting at. Well, here's what I'm thinking out loud as you're telling me this. And that part about bracing impact has stuck with me, and I'm glad we get to kind of move through all the details to the point where we can talk about this part now. So, like, yes, they can seem to move through walls. I'll like just say it, okay? Like there, I've said it. Fairies can move through walls, but also, and I mean, every flippin' time I talk about this, I feel woozy. Stuff in my house has moved during an episode with Danielle, Dumbfounded by Danielle. This set of glasses above my computer area was like picked up and set down next to my head while we're talking. So was my ball mouse. Jem has had a wedding ring that was gone for 3 years return in an obvious place that would have obviously been seen. And so like they can also, so the Fae can go through walls. I said that a second ago, but they can also move third dimension stuff around. So they're not entirely just like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I think that maybe when it was, and I wasn't there again, but I'm just talking out loud, and sorry for I've done this a little bit more than I usually do in this episode because you've got so much that's getting me thinking, but it's sort of like if they're thinking about it and they've got the time, they can be invisible, they can move through our physical barriers in our dimension because they're actually a interdimensional creature. But when they're ingressed here into the third world is kind of when they're picking up the glasses. And so they have to have some degree of physicality if they're interacting with physical things.
Definitely.
So if it was startled into being, I guess, through the veil and here, then maybe that's why you saw it feel like it was about to get hit by the car. Like in normal circumstances, if it was doing its own thing without duress, it may have just done like what I saw, because that fairy just passed through the glass of my boat like it wasn't there. But it was intentionally doing that at the time. Yours was more like scared, and then it was more like, oh, this real object is going to hit me and I'm real and the two of us are going to collide. I better protect myself.
I think it was an accumulation of sort of fear and terror that definitely, one, made it visible when it realised it was being chased by this bird. Two, me seeing it, and then the car also. I think it must change, I don't know, vibrations, frequency, whatever. But I think it was just an accumulation. Everything just clicked into place. Wrong time for it, but right time for me, I suppose. And, yeah.
So did you hit it? Did it go over the car, or did it pass through the car?
That's what I don't know. I have not got a clue. I don't know, because I was ready for some sort of impact, but nothing, no sound, no nothing. I had a look in my rear view mirror and couldn't see anything, but I mean, there was 1,001 leaves sort of floating past at the time in the wind. So I have no idea. As I say, I thought to myself, right, okay, should I stop? And then I thought, well, if it's injured, all this is going through my head, it's crazy. I thought, well, where am I going to put it? I'm not going to pick up a fairy and say, oh, kids, go and make room in the middle of yous two and put this injured fairy there. And then where do you take it? You know, the police station, vets, you know, what you do with an injured fairy if it was injured. If it wasn't, you know, I can't imagine it being too happy about someone trying to manhandle it into a car. All this sort of crazy thoughts that were going through my head, and then I did get I don't know whether mind speak is a thing. I've heard folk talk about it in connection with various things like Sasquatches and the like, but I did get this overwhelming voice in my head going, don't even think about it, don't you dare. And that's when I was thinking about stopping to go and have a wee look. So I just carried on.
That's interesting, because that runs counter to what your curiosity would have been making you want to do, that voice in your head.
Oh, definitely.
If I had just seen that, every part of me would be like, whoa, I got to go back. And then it would feel weird to me to hear a voice say, don't even think about it.
Yeah. It's, I mean, and it's the only time, well, that's not the only time, but maybe one other time, but it's the first time certainly that I've had that kind of voice in my head that you know is not your own. And it's just, you know what, you know, it's saying.
I've only ever, and I've tried to be really critical about this, I've only ever had that sensation once, and it was very recently when I was retelling an anecdote that Frozen Wolf, one of my guests, told me. She had a house fae live with her. And here's the weird thing. She and I live in Nanaimo, and when she had this house fae originally inhabit her house and live with her, she was also in Nanaimo. And there's only a couple of green spaces in Nanaimo, and I've kind of since put it together that she and I were basically both backed onto this same green space at different points in the city. There's one big green corridor that runs right through the core part of the town. It's like this old, it's a historic park, and there's a river through it. But anyway, I was telling the story, and I was talking to somebody and telling about how in Frozen Wolf's case, her fae would take her cat and stuff from her cat and bring it into the room that held the water heater. And she would always find her cat toys and sometimes even her cat in this small closed room with a lockable closing door that held the water heater. She could never figure it out. Her cat passed away long ago, and she had since discontinued having the fae around, despite that fae was around for years, playing with her cat and eating her candy canes. She came on the show, you know, it had been like years. She tells me the story. She later that week, I'm getting goosebumps now. Later that week sends me a messenger message saying, hey, it's so weird. We were just looking for XYZ, and we just found all this cat toys and a picture of my cat underneath the water heater. Oh, I'm getting fully goosebumps right now. And as I was telling that story to a friend, I felt or heard a voice enter my head, which was not my voice. That's for fucking sure. And it, because I was talking when I heard it. I was like saying like blah, 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 like humans do. And when you're doing that, you're usually thinking about what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? And so I was mid-sentence, and then all of a sudden I had this cut-through feeling of another voice in my head. And I took that to be like just a confirmatory nod from that fae that like, yeah, Frozen Wolf is to be believed just like everybody else. Here, I'm going to move a little extra something too. I do believe you when you say you heard that. And I also believe you because it just runs contrary to what all of your curiosity would have made you want to do then.
Definitely. The only other time I've had it happen was when I was considering actually contacting, it was the Scottish Society for Cyclical Research, and they were the sort of first folk I reached out to kind of, just to, I don't know, speak to someone about it who, you know, would maybe not take it seriously, but would listen to me and hear me out. And I was outside and I was just contemplating it in my head, you know, well, I won't, and then same voice in my head going, don't talk about it, don't tell anyone. And that was it. But then I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to have them dictate to me, you know, what I can and can't do, who I can and can't talk to. I think I mentioned to you when I first contacted you that, you know, I don't think they liked me talking about it, and that's why. That was the only other time it happened.
Okay, yeah. You know, I want to say something about that for a second, if I can, please, Albert. On like Reddit, for example, there's what I, up until this exact moment, had considered an annoying trend that I see, which is like, I'll ask, hey, will somebody please share their fairy stories? Because I'm trying to get, you know, the conversation started in Reddit so that I can maybe find some guests. And I'll get people telling me their stories. Like some people are really great on Reddit. They'll write what easily, I think, took them 40, 50 minutes to write this out, you know? And then someone will come along and the first comment will be like, the Fae don't like it when you talk about them. Don't do this. And I have always subscribed like that comment to just neckbeard in his mom's basement being like, I read somewhere once the Fae don't like it. I don't know at all, but I'm just like parroting something that makes me sound relevant, blah, blah, blah. When I first saw that in your email, I was like a little like, is this guy going to be like another dude who's like, I know everything about the Fae and rule number one is you don't talk about the Fae. Can I also just say like, I'm going to make a joke here, but it's a good one. Like what's up with the Fae being like Fight Club? Because the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. And the first rule of the Fae is you don't talk about the Fae. You know, there's some alliteration going.
It makes me laugh though, the folk who think they're experts on it, because, well, for me, you know, everything about it just throws up 1,000 new questions. You know, who knows, you know, about them. Certainly no experts, but I'm not having them, you know, getting in my head, telling me, oh, you can't say that and you can't talk to them. Nah, life's too short.
What is really interesting is that when I originally read your email, I just kind of thought maybe you're just one of these Reddit guys. But actually what I'm listening to you say, which is really, I was wrong. You know, what you're actually saying is you've heard voices in your head warning against it, which is where that instinct came from.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, that's also maybe like the first person I've spoken to who really can talk to the justification for that reason that I always see, don't talk about the Fae. I'm going to just keep going here on this particular thread for a quick second, because in my house, the degree of weird, high strange stuff since I started this show is, I mean, off the charts. Like I actually am uncomfortable with it on some level. And I've been like, you know, trying to figure out what, if anything, is going on here. Again, trying my best to remain objective. I am literally a podcast host that just became a podcast host because of some wild experience I saw. I was not anticipating bleed over and like, so it's just really, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, you originally were thinking in your head of contacting, what was the name of that society one more time, please?
It was the Scottish Cyclical Research Society. I think that's their proper title. They go back years, you know, long time.
So, and then you heard that don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Now, again, I wasn't there, and I don't know that I'm right with what I'm about to say, but sometimes I like to throw my own speculations out onto the conversation table in the hopes that perhaps it triggers a response or maybe it just gets this itch out of my head about what I think is happening. So like maybe they just didn't want you talking to those folk.
Quite possibly. Because, I mean, they're made up of, you know, well, they take an objective look at things more than, I mean, you know, the next guy I talked to and was a podcast host, he didn't actually put out, asked him not to, the story, although he did retell it on his podcast. But, you know, he was more of a natural believer. But these guys, you know, I was almost, again, looking for a way that, kind of hoping, I suppose, that they would turn around and go, oh, no, this is what happened. And
I know that feeling. Like, I wanted to be able to factually analyze my encounter down to a bird for a while.
Yeah.
I was like, it was a really fast bird that just was flying across the water and feathered its way through the open crack on the left and the open crack on the right. Yeah. But then I just kept getting messed up by how loud it was. And that's the part I couldn't shake for the longest time. And I was like, nothing I've ever been next to that's alive is that volume. It's also interesting that yours was dead silent.
But I had music playing in the car, and it was a really windy day, so...
Again, Albert, you're such a good, poke holes in my own story / objective observer of why or why not something was not part of your story. Great insight as to why you might not have heard it. But I guess just to kind of wrap up that point that I was trying to make about don't talk about the Fae. Mm-hmm. I guess I'll just take a moment for what it's worth. And I do think it is worth something actually to say to the Fae, all of whom that are inhabiting my computer or showing up in front of my house at weird times or moving stuff around in my house or popping into my head because I'm doing this show. I just would like to say thank you for letting me do this show. And I say that genuinely here in this moment, maybe more so than I could have or would have before, thanks to you, Albert, by being honest about hearing these don't even think about it messages in your head in another voice. Because actually, maybe I was wrong, and maybe there is a degree to which the Fae do not want to be talked about. And the fact that they're letting me do it with all these people and also seeming to show up on episodes to confirm things and help the narrative along, even including like lining up guests and stuff, I kind of feel like maybe they're on the team a little bit. And that's a weird thing to say.
Well, they've maybe got egos as well. You never know. You know, they maybe like getting talked occasionally.
Well, Bonnie and Therese told me that they played episodes for the cross-country fairy forum that they hold every week, and that there was very good response amongst the Fae. But I mean, I don't know, if you get a little deeper into these next 20 aughts of my catalog, Albert, you're going to start to hear some weird stuff, not the least of which is an episode that I'll be putting out before this one. So I'll just not be doing any spoilers by talking to you about it here now. But I talked to this guy, and there's been a gnome thing, like a four episode streak of gnome narrative. Mm-hmm. And including like really messed up shit happening to and with my computer that almost feels like this gnome named Grimble Grumble was revealing himself through the use of technology, starting with Gem, returning her wedding ring potentially, or definitely knowing the gnomes that did. Then it would appear that like he knew I was working on her episode. It would then appear that he knew that I was also then subsequently working on an episode about my astonishment at what had happened when I was working on her episode. Because when I was working on her episode, spontaneous song started playing on my phone that was the Pink Floyd song called The Gnome. And it was the lyrics go like a gnome named Grimble Grumble, and it continues on for 2 minutes. I was like, what the hell? That just started playing out of nowhere. I then went to record it because I was like going to share with the audience. I was like, I got to record this gnome song and share it with everybody. When I recorded it, I know I recorded it because I watched myself record it, but it cut off right at the end of the gnome's name. A gnome named Grimble Grumble. And what I mean is like, so I recorded the whole song. I saved it. Later, I went to go take that clip and paste it in the place I wanted to put it in the audio. And I went to play it back, and I was listening back, and it just stops. And I was like, what the fuck? Where did the rest of the song go? And where the rest of the song went is a true mystery, because the clip is 2.5 minutes long, like it should be. The waveform stops at the name Grimble Grumble, and the rest of it has just disappeared. And I couldn't figure that out. I was like, what the hell caused that? I know I recorded that. So I went to like record it again, and then I had like all the audio in my computer go blank, like all of the inputs The microphone disappeared. The headset disappeared. The wired-in MacBook Air speakers were no longer selectable, so I couldn't even play the audio. It just kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder. I'm going to finish by telling you about this guy. So I talked to this guy, William, and he had Gnome move money in his room and put it into a stack and then set it beside his face while he was sleeping. And this is the only weird thing that's ever happened to him. He was like 20 when it happened. He could never forget it. He's now 40 plus, and he's talking to me for the show. And this is exactly how this went down. So I was trying to get him on the show for a while because he had made a comment about seeing gnomes when he was a teenager. This is like months ago he made that comment. And I kept trying to get him to come on the show. And when I finally did get him to come on the show, he's like, oh, bro, listen, I'm going to come on. And then we missed each other. And I was like, fuck. And then 3 days went by. And then he showed up again. He's like, hey, man, I can come on. And I was like, cool, let's do it. We were just like both online at the same time. And we just hopped on and did it. And he tells me everything about the change. And we talk for a while. And then I say, no, listen, I know that you really only have that one thing that you wanted to talk about. Was there anything else that happened? Because I usually ask that at the end. And he goes, well, there is this one weird thing. So he was going camping, which is why I missed him for 3 days. And before he went camping, he has one of those extra long iPhone chargers that's 10 foot long. And he pulled it off the wall and he coiled it up and he put it in his pocket of his cargo shorts along with the charging block. And he knew he did this because he was taking it to go camping, right? And he needed the charger to go camping. And he thought, well, I might have to like plug in at a gas station. And like, so I'm going to bring my charger block too. And his girlfriend, his woman was like, hey babe, like kind of like just before they left, like feeling his pockets to make sure that he had everything that they needed. And she acknowledged and remembers feeling this 10-foot long cable in his front pocket along with the charging block. They go camping and they can't find it. Can't find it anywhere. Comes back from camping, comes in the house, it's plugged into the wall, all like perfectly stretched out in a line along the counter, like waiting basically for him to open the door to see it right there. And what he and I took away from that was that he decided to come on the show. The gnome knew that he decided to come on the show. He didn't connect with me originally. He went camping instead. And the gnome took his charger from him while he was camping, returned it back through the walls of his house, plugged it into the wall, and left it for him to find. Like, and he and I went over this like 10 times. You sure you had it? You sure your girlfriend felt you have it? He's like, bro, I don't leave anything plugged in. He later told me offline, like, why? And there's a good reason why he doesn't leave shit plugged in. And so I believe him. So I believe him. And so what I'm getting at with what you're saying, originally starting this train of thought about how you heard in your head, don't even think about it. Conversely, what I'm getting is like, I'm going to interview a guy. I've been trying to interview him for months. I finally do get him to agree to come on. But before he does, the Fae pull something that is directly in line with everything I've been talking about gnomes doing. 4 people in a row, I've been talking about gnomes moving physical objects, returning physical objects from long distances, coming through walls, like returning wedding rings, returning glasses. In my case, like literally messing with my computer. And I think to myself, like, I'm just being like confirmation bias. And then William goes on to tell me that, you know, this charger event, and it was just so lit. Like, it was just like, whoa, are they listening? Do they not only like the show, but are they contributing in their own, like, are they appearing as special guests in episodes, I guess is what I'm getting at. So I really appreciate you taking the risk to share it with me.
No, it's no problem. They definitely know what's going on. They know what you're up to and stuff. Yeah, without a doubt. I've had things move in the house. A few belters, actually. Yeah, so it just happens. That's why, you know, how I wasn't on Facebook or anything like that. One of the reasons to stay away from technology is a lot of what you're saying, glitches and gremlins in the system almost happens all the time. So I've eventually just kind of shied away from technology. I use it as little as possible because something always goes wrong. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels there by what you've just said.
You've got a lot of really powerful insights for me here today. Sorry for talking so much during your episode.
No, that's okay.
Let's move on to talking, just as the tail end of this conversation, that whole description of, by the way, just to finish, I do have one last question. You call it a dryad. I'm not really familiar with that term. Why is that thing a dryad to you?
Either was I, because, after it happened, it was like, right, what was that? And so, of course, you go on the internet and you try and find out as much as possible. So I was putting in tree-like fairy thing and, leaf-like fairy thing. And there's quite a bit of information, old folklore. I hate that word, folklore. That's what they put everything down as. But it comes from the Greek, I believe. The dryads, but they were always female, and that's what kind of got me. I was like, well, it wasn't that. But pretty much every other description then, I can't remember what website it was on about Celtic dryads. Celtic coming from, sort of around these parts, and how, they were kind of unisex almost. And I thought, oh, that kind of fits. And then I'd done a wee bit more digging, and there's a Scottish folklore again character called the Gilly Doo. It comes from the Gaelic, and it is a kind of guardian of forests and woodlands. And there's various kind of descriptions of it, but some of them are pretty goddamn close to what I saw. So I suppose Gilly Doo would be the right terminology, but dryad is the most sort of common for a kind of tree spirit almost, or
a Gilly Doo.
Gilly Doo, yeah.
Interesting. The audio just glitched when you said Gilly Doo back, and you've been crystal clear the entire time. So I wonder if that's actually a little tiny confirmation right there.
Yeah, that'd be good. It'd be better than calling it a dryad, because as I say, I think that comes from the Greek, sort of ancient Greek.
One thing you just said, I'm going to second. I hate the word folklore. I don't, I've been bummed out by the idea.
It's patronizing, really patronizing.
I agree. And I also have the same problem with terms even magic and stuff. I'm trying to rephrase magic as technical owner's manual to life with interdimensional beings, Right, you can call it magic. Magic is probably the right word. I'm probably, diminishing something very powerful, but I just it just conjures up Dungeons and Dragons nerds and.
Yeah, that's it. Wands and
Yeah, 100%. And but what's weird is that I think I definitely started off this show and my perspective very much straight white male. Fairy stuff is bullshit. I'm gonna fucking figure out fairies. You know what I mean? The internet doesn't know what it's talking about. Whether or not that's true, I mean, I'm one of 3 shows about fairy encounters, and there's not enough content on this subject matter. So I at least get to play around in my mud puddle, making mud pies with my own ideas about things.
No, I was much the sort of same way until I had my encounter, and I was thinking to myself, why a fairy? Why a fairy? It's not like I believe in them. And then I thought about it, and for years, I used to do a lot of fishing. I don't anymore. I've not fished for years, but I used to be right into my fishing. So I'd go down to the river, and I always carried a silver coin, whether it be a 5p or a 10p, 50p, whatever, and I would toss it into the water before I started and just say a wee shout out to any kind of river or nature spirits. And I didn't even realise that, all these years I've been practically, gifting them And it always worked. It always seemed to catch way more than my fair share. And it really does work. Like I said, I was into hill walking and stuff. If I was going up a mountain at the start of the walk, I would sort of throw a coin into the heather and just say a wee, appreciation thing. And, it's fine. I've never had any accidents, never got lost in the hills, and it's always turned out good. And yeah, I thought, oh God, you obviously believed in it a lot more than you thought you did. Yeah, I'd been doing it kind of subconsciously for years.
I really appreciate that you're able to make that connection within yourself. That's brave of in and of itself, actually, to talk about sort of your emotional truth publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've said it, but I want to say it now. I think it's really brave of you to tell me this story. I mean, we're talking about this plainly and honestly. I hope I'm doing a good job of creating a environment where you feel like you can talk about it. But even if I did that job correctly, it still takes a degree of balls to come forward and say, yo, I saw a fairy. This is what it looked like. This is what it was doing.
Yeah. No, anyone from the work actually stumbled upon this podcast. That wouldn't go down very well. But no, it needs to be told. Definitely. It's been years. Well, 2016. And as I say, I'm getting to the stage now where there's wee bits that I'm having to think about it, second guess. It's like, was it that colour? Was it that colour? And before, I'm in my 50s now, and, I want it just down someplace for, folk to hear, and it needs to be told.
Actually, this reminds me what you've just said of a question I forgot to ask. So thanks for reminding me. The color changes that it was going through is kind of what I want to talk about. But before I do, was the fairy itself illuminated of its own light, or was it because you say it was changing color, was it lit up?
Yeah, that was more the wings. Its body did, when it got to the stage where it was kind of panicked and bracing for impact stage, it did go kind of the same colour as its wings, which was a kind of more orangey, reddy colour. But before that, the body was very pale, sort of pale yellow. The wings, they started off a kind of pinky yellow and then moved to the orange. But yeah, the body did change colour. But it was the, obviously, emotion type thing that changed it. The panic and...
Oh, interesting. So its color was changing in relation to its emotional process.
I'd say so, yeah.
Huh. Was when I guess the detail I'm still trying to understand was when you're watching these colors change, are you looking like at a matte object? Like when I say matte, like a flat black matte color change, or are you looking at something that's illuminated and glowing when it's changing colors?
It wasn't glowing as much. No, it was just like a leaf.
Like a chameleon changing color doesn't glow, but it does change color.
Octopus type thing, changing colour, or chameleon. It was pretty quick. It was happening. It was.
So like a matte color change. That's really interesting.
But it wasn't instant. It was a kind of gradual change, although it happened really quick. It wasn't just instant. Right, I'm now orange.
If you watch a jellyfish, sorry, not a jellyfish. If you watch an octopus or a chameleon, it's really fast, but it does have a gradualness to it as well.
That's pretty much what it was like, yeah.
Isn't it wild that an octopus can both change texture and color across all of its body?
I think they're brilliant creatures, yeah.
Not that this is like a vegan PSA podcast, but I mean, all living things are pretty freaking phenomenal. And before you eat one next, just take a minute and check it out and decide if you really want to.
I did try octopus years ago and I regret it ever since. It's just one of my life's regrets that I did eat one once. Fantastic creatures.
I've also eaten octopus, and now I look back on that and think, wow, damn, they're basically like living aliens. They're just totally from another world. And the ocean is kind of another world, but that's a story for another day. Listen, out of respect for your time, out of respect for the audience's time, let's talk briefly about some of the orb activity you've seen, just briefly. And then what I'll do after that, Albert, is I'll ask you some of the kind of wind-up questions I like to ask my audience. And so yeah, so these orbs, let's get into it. Yeah, talk orbs to me.
First time I seen them, that was before my Dryad encounter, so I don't know. Guessing, it was years ago. It must have been round about 2008, 2010, round about then. I was actually sat outside the back of my house. I go out there to smoke, and yeah, I was having a smoke. Winter's night, it was a brilliant clear sky, so all the stars were out. It was just magical. I like to just sort of stare at them. It's fantastic. And there was, I don't know my constellations, and so I was staring at one anyway. And then all of a sudden, one of the stars started to move to the left. And so I'm thinking, that's really cool. That must be a satellite. And it carries on moving, and it's just a nice sort of steady speed. And it's going across, quite high up in the horizon and stuff. And it's going to the left, going to the left. And then suddenly it just shoots up straight at a total right angle at such a speed. I mean, you're talking like thousands of miles an hour, and I'm still thinking it's a star. That's how far away it looks. And I just thought, wow, well, okay, that wasn't a satellite. And yeah, I've looked into that one as well, natural phenomenon, but there's nothing that I can find that could explain it. So that was the first time. The second time, that was a belter actually. That was just 2 years ago. It was in the December. I've got a dog, and with the shifts I work, if I'm on day shift, I take him out for a walk really early in the morning, usually about sort of 5:30 in the morning. I take him round the side of the village and the outskirts that I stay in. And yeah, it was December. I was out early one morning. Again, brilliant clear sky, no clouds in it, so you could see all the stars, and there wasn't light pollution because you're just outside the village. And staring up, and then all of a sudden I see one of the stars move, and I'm thinking, yes, happening again. And it's moving, and it picks up speed, and it's going in the same direction as the last one actually. And this time, instead of shooting straight up at 90 degrees, it actually kind of backs back on itself. It's almost like a tennis ball being hit back at quite some force, and it's sort of going backwards now at a lot faster rate. And then I see another one. Was sort of shooting off in the other direction, and the two of them just sort of shoot off and disappear. It was after that one. That was kind of life-changing in a way. It affected me. It was just a couple of days after that. I made some quite big life changes, like becoming vegetarian. And I was quite a devoted meat eater, but after, I don't know if it was connected, might have been total coincidence, but I just found the urge to eat meat just made me feel repulsed. It was just, I just couldn't do it anymore. My wife's been vegetarian since she was a kid, and I used to always just take the mick out of her about it and stuff. It was quite cruel looking back, and I do regret it. But yeah, that's the last couple of years. I've just no inclination for any sort of meat at all. So I don't know if it was connected, might have been. I actually checked the time. I thought, right, maybe that was a wee kind of time lapse moment or missing time, but no, there wasn't. And the dog was totally fine. It wasn't, acting any different. But yeah, it was just after that. And the third time it was just about a month or so after that. My daughter was back home visiting us, and I was telling her about it. She's quite open-minded girl. And I was, telling her about it, and my wife was there as well. And I went outside for a cigarette, and as soon as I stepped outside, here's another one, sort of going across the sky. So I was actually able to shout them out, and so they could witness it. I was like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And so they both seen it as well. So I had some kind of corroboration there. But yeah, it's brilliant to see. So that's every time I'm out now and it's dark and clear skies, just always look up instead of down. It's because they're definitely.
You know, Albert, I'm really happy that the conversation took this particular direction change around vegetarianism, meat eating, and lights in the sky. You had originally asked me about this in your email to me, and I didn't really respond, in part because I have a hard time like physically writing emails. I'm a much stronger verbal communicator with my mobility issues. But I want to tell you a little bit about my lights in the sky that I've seen too. And for the audience listening, I just want to, before I say that, just do a quick thing here. So I saw a fairy in 2019. Everyone knows that by now. I also have seen a Sasquatch once, very briefly, in a roadside crossing scenario, and I talked with Danielle about that. And that's after more than 20 years of deep driving into the bush, driving on desolate highways. I mean, Vancouver Island, British Columbia, the north part of it has more eagles than people. It's maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people live in the entire north part of Vancouver Island, and it's the size of the UK, just about. So I've been out there forever, and in my entire life, this is the full extent of all the weird stuff I've ever seen. The fairy in 2019. Afterwards, many years totally unrelated, my roadside crossing with a Bigfoot, a big giant white tall Bigfoot. And I've seen 4 strange lights in the sky, all of which I've seen in one place, which is Brentwood Bay, British Columbia, Canada, in the Saanich Inlet. And so I'm going to tell you about that. And then I do want to talk about this vegetarian thing because I think it is related. And I'll tell you why I think. And these are just my personal insights. I don't have any facts to back it up. But so where Seaquarium Shame, my boat, was anchored was right in front of the main tourist attraction on Vancouver Island called Bouchart Gardens. Bouchart Gardens is an old quarry where they used to quarry cement, and then Jeannie Bouchart, the wife of the quarry owner, turned this destroyed quarry into a beautiful garden. And it is quite beautiful. It's got, hundreds of varieties of roses, and it's your standard like British botanical garden, but it's here in Canada. And it brings in, probably, not an exaggeration, 200,000 tourists a year. And they do a whale watching tour. So you leave Victoria, you get on this giant boat, you go harass the shit out of orca whales, then you come into Bouchart Gardens by water, go visit the gardens. Later, they take you back by bus to your hotel. It's kind of like a loop. And then they pick people up who started at the gardens, take them out, harass whales on the way back, and drop those people off by water back in the city. So they have people coming and going both ways, and part of the trip is harassing whales. So what I did is I put Seaquarium Shame at the entrance to Bouchart Cove, where their marina is. And I mean, this is like me parking a billboard. It's literally the size of a billboard that says, "Fuck whale watching." And I parked it right in front of where the 2 biggest pick up and drop off points for whale watching in the area was. They hated it. But anyway, that's the place where I saw these lights in the sky. It wasn't related to that, but I do want to mention that because I think it's cool that I did that. You can drop anchor anywhere. They couldn't do shit. They just drove them crazy. I would smoke joints, light off smoke bombs, and talk on my megaphone as they let out with 200 tourists. And I would just be like, leave those animals alone, for shame, And you could legitimately see people in distress on deck, almost saying to the crew, why is this guy so mad at what we're doing? They had no idea, because they're just thinking they're going on a tourist attraction. But so Saanich Inlet is this very deep, long, V-shaped inlet. It's massive. I mean, it's like many, many miles, but it's a giant V, and Bouchart Cove and all this sort of stuff I'm talking about is at the very bottom of the V, down in the little bottom of the V. And so they have a fireworks display in the summer on every Friday night. Another thing I just totally hate about the Bouchart Gardens, for shame on you, because it drives all the bird and wildlife in that. There's a huge wildlife preserve called Gallantot Inlet there, and all the birds take off and don't come back for days. And they do it every Friday. But so they set off a preliminary firework to announce to everybody, including the birds, that the fireworks are about to begin. And the preliminary firework is like one big one. It just goes up, it goes boom, and it's a big white burst, and it does your traditional firework thing where it kind of tinkles out. And at the time that my first sighting occurred, I was in my little floating cabin. And if you guys want to see that, you can go to my Instagram at @thejimwhite and take a look at the picture of my little floating cabin. And I was getting ready to watch the fireworks like I did, because despite hating it, I did watch them. And so I'm standing on deck and this firework goes off, boom. And I look up at it because it's, it's eye-catching, of course. And you know how fireworks kind of slowly tinkle out. The light remains in the sky for a few seconds as it kind of fizzles out. So the burst happens and then it's sort of fizzling out, and then it's totally fizzled out. But to the left of where it went off slightly, what originally looked like maybe just part of the fizzling out is now this distinct light in the sky. Low too, like not much higher than the firework would have been. So 1,000 feet, I don't know how high they go, but 1,500 feet, something like that, probably even lower. I don't think fireworks even go that high, but and it was just, this is the most clear look I've ever had at a light in the sky. And I actually would go so far as to say this was a craft, but it was undefined, so I'm just going to call it a light. But the firework fizzles out, and then what immediately catches my attention is that this one part has not fizzled out and is holding perfectly still to the left of where the burst went off. And it looks like, if you think about like Egyptian art and how they draw the eyes on like, it would look like that, or like an almond, but more like double-sided termination points, because an almond's kind of round on one end and then terminates in more of a V on the other. But this was like terminated in a V on both sides, but it was almond-like in the sense that it was oval overall. And it was like a weird kind of light too, because it was very bright, but it wasn't extending the brightness out of itself at all. The brightness was very contained, like a focal, very bright point with no light bleed. And it's already dusk at this point. So, if something was up there that had lights on it, those lights would be casting corresponding light pollution around whatever the light source is. Kind of like a halo or whatever. You can see that even just if you look at a street light, you can kind of see where the light is extending to and where it stops reaching. And now it's dark again. This wasn't like that. This was like a clean point of light with no extending of the illumination elsewhere. And as I noticed it, this was the really distinct sequence of events that happened. So the burst goes off. I'm watching the first burst. It's tinkling out. I go, why is that thing not tinkling out? Then I really look at it and I'm like, that's a weird shape. And as I finish the thought, that's a weird shape, it moves towards the left, like towards the Victoria International Airport at the fastest rate I've ever seen anything move. Really, it was like it covered easily 125 kilometers of distance, which is how far you can see up this giant inlet bay in 1 second. It was just like from a dead stop to all the way out to past the airport. And as I watched it go over the airport, because I followed it, even though it was moving so fast, because I had been looking right at it, so I watched it launch, and I could follow it. It did the weirdest thing where it almost looked like it slipped into another dimension. Like the light just disappeared, but the way that it disappeared was it like was moving forward at this incredible rate of speed, and then it seemed to like encounter a tear in space-time, if you would. I'm just like, I don't know, like a slit. And it went through the slit because I watched it proportionately disappear from front to back through like past if you can imagine like throwing a pool noodle, past a wall, you'd watch it disappear past the wall from vision. It was like that. I watched it like it didn't disappear in thin air. It like disappeared behind something that was nothing. If that makes any sense. That was the first time. Then years removed, I was on board Seaquarium Shame again at this point. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, Mira, and we were just coming back from like having a nice time on the parked boat at night together. And I was taking her back to the dock till she could go home. And this light kind of in the sky, looking like a star, like you talked about, started to move. And I thought, oh, that's weird. That must be a satellite. But it was moving downward. Like it was moving, like falling from the sky, kind of, not left to right in the sky. Because you could see that it was getting like slightly closer. And it wasn't falling fast or anything, but it kind of looked like it was falling like at the rate of something maybe with a parachute on it, just kind of coming down at us. And I said to Mira, I said, what's that? And I pointed up at it. And we were on my little dinghy boat going from my big boat over to the dock. And so, you know, we're out on the water. It's really dark. She looks up and she goes, yeah, that's weird. And as we're watching it fall, it moves in a J. I think you said yours moved like a tennis ball got smacked. This wasn't like that, but it also was similar in the sense that it stopped moving one direction, did like a J, like it kind of like did like almost a U-turn, if you would, but it was more like a letter J. Like it moved, it turned back in on itself, but then off to a 45-degree angle and back up. And that was weird.
It's strange how they only start moving when you're watching them, though. I mean, the ones I see.
Well, I do think that they have awareness of being seen, much like if someone's looking at the back of your head when you're in the food court at the mall, you feel it. You're like, what does that feel? And you can tell someone's looking at you. I do think that you can tell someone's looking at you. Go try it. Go stare at somebody randomly for a while and watch that person turn around to see who's looking at them. You can do it yourself to just about anybody. Just go stare at somebody randomly. I guarantee you, within a minute, that person's going to visibly, to your eye, turn around and go like, who's looking at me? And if someone's staring at you, you would feel it too, even though you can't see it. I think that these craft are inhabited at the least by things as perceptive as we are, or they themselves are a type of illuminated representation of spirit consciousness, one or the other. But so this thing like moves in this J, and this is what got really weird. So now Mira is really looking at it, and because I had told her many times about the thing I saw at the fireworks, and she, you know, just because I really was affected by that thing I saw at the fireworks, and then so she's looking at it, and we watch it do this J move. And then as we're looking at it, another one blinks on not far from this one.
All right.
And proceeds to move along with it in the sky. But the way that it did it was remarkable, because to catch up with it and to get kind of along with it, it also dropped for a while and then did a J move. And we watch these two things now sort of like team up and move along together. They weren't moving particularly fast. They're kind of on their merry way, but they were like doing stuff that a man-made aircraft is not doing. Those are moving in straight lines. They're going from point A to point B, generally speaking, right? You might catch a helicopter hovering. You might see a plane doing a trick at a air show. But if you're looking at a man-made object that is flying, it is almost always directionally moving and keeping on that directional path for the most part, you know, with rare exception. I mean, again, unless you're like in special circumstances looking at a dogfight or something, planes just move in one direction, so do helicopters. These were moving in J's. They were moving up, they were moving down, they were moving sideways, and then they just blinked out and they were just gone.
But you're silent as well.
Totally silent, totally silent. Now the final one is kind of a trip. And up until I saw this final one, I had not really associated these lights in the sky with Brentwood Bay per se. But then when I did see this final one, I was like, no, these things are of this inlet. Because it's the only place I've ever seen lights in the sky. I've lived in the bush, like I said, for years. I mean, I protested old growth logging. I lived in the woods then. When I first moved to Tofino and surfed, there was no housing. I lived in the woods then. I lived on a small floating cabin in Brentwood Bay for years. Then I bought a giant boat and lived on that for years. And then most recently, I lived on Malcolm Island for 4 years, completely off grid. Most of my adult life has been not inside, not in structures that have power and water. But yet, I've never seen a light in the sky. I'd never seen a fairy. I'd never seen a Bigfoot, all up until this short list of things that I've seen. And so just culminating with this fourth one. So there's this guy named Roy who lives in Brentwood Bay. Like some people might call Roy homeless. I just call Roy a genius. He's real smart. He lives on a boat, and that's how I know him, because I was living on a boat too. And he's just one of these kind of guys. Like, he plays guitar in front of the liquor store, makes enough money to buy groceries and liquor, and goes and lives on his boat. Doesn't work, just doesn't have time for it. You know what I mean? One of the happiest guys I know. Doesn't have like really a possession to his name, but. So when I go to Brentwood Bay, I pop by Roy's, and I usually bring Roy something. Like, I'll just bring him some chocolate or some beer, or just, because he's Roy. So I'm just bringing him something. And so I talk to him, I'm bringing him something, we're chatting. And this was not that long after I'd seen the Paralights with Mira, and I was telling him about it. And I was like, man, by the way, the previous 2 times were at night. This next one is during the day.
All right.
And so it's so weird. And so, I guess I'll just tell the detail here. So my boat that I talk about, my Yag, it's called a Yag, that design of boat. There was actually a few of them made back in the 1950s here on the coast. And when I originally bought that boat, I actually bought 2 of them. I haven't really told this story before. And Roy had been living in a boat that was pretty much had sank on him. And so as I was starting to come down from my super high of selling my cannabis businesses for millions of dollars, I realized I have 2 old boats. What am I doing? And I just gave one of them to Roy because his boat had been sinking, and this was more like a proper home. So Roy, I gave him this boat for $1 that I had previously paid quite a lot more for. It's tax write-off. It was a good thing to do, blah, 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 blah. But I had also needed to get myself divested of these 2 old boats. I just needed the one. Energetically, I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I was Superman. It was stupid of me. But Roy was really grateful. And so he and I had recently done that transaction, and we're talking about that. He's happy to see me. I'm just making sure he's good on the new boat and telling him about these 2 UFOs that I saw. And I tell him, like, yeah, they were kind of like moving in a weird way, like that it didn't look like a plane or something. And he looks at me and he says, "Oh, James, they've visited you many times." Oh, it was such a weird moment. And I said, "Oh, haha, Roy." Roy, for the audience, just to picture him, he's kind of a short guy, but he's wiry, like muscular, like you wouldn't believe. And he's got piercing green eyes. And he's got this shock of like almost white blonde hair. And he says, "Oh, James, they've visited you many times." And I said, yeah, right, Roy. Ha ha ha. Have a nice day. And I'm pulling away now from the Yag, and I'm looking back at Roy because he's like waving at me with a big smile on his face. And as I pull away from Roy, I'm now starting to get like, before I'm up close to the boat, and now I'm pulling away so I can now see the whole boat and a little above it and beside it, etc. And above the boat, out of the clear blue sky, erupts what I can best describe as a ball of lightning. And it comes like right out of the clear blue sky. It's big too. I mean, it's the size of like a smart car. I don't know if you probably have those in the UK. So it's the size of a smart car, and it comes roaring towards the boat. It appears in the sky maybe 250 to 300 feet back and above the boat, but right above it. And it comes roaring towards the boat, like almost like it's roaring towards Roy, where he's standing on deck. And as it drops out of the sky and gets close to the top of where the boat is now, it does the most insane aerial acrobatics. It like corkscrews. It's like, it literally corkscrews at speed, like off to the left, down to the water, and then skims along the water, full speed off to my left, and disappears. And
that's cool.
Oh, I'm shouting at Roy. I'm like, do you see that? Do you see that? I'm screaming at him, basically. And he had just turned around to go walk back down below deck, like as it had happened. And he comes running back out and he's like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Because he could just hear me screaming. You know, he thought maybe I'd hurt myself or something. And I was like, Roy, like, bro, like that, it was truly a wild experience. And what I took away from it was like that it was one of those lights up close.
Yeah.
And I also took away from it that like maybe Roy is an alien because he's a totally strange guy, like with his white hair and green eyes and like his total lifestyle choices. And the way he said with such confidence, oh, James, they've come and visited you many times. Like he wasn't always weird. Like he isn't always weird like that. He's a pretty straightforward guy, but he just said that like it was a fact. And then that thing happened over his head. And when I did catch his attention and told him what happened, I was like almost hyperventilating. I was so excited. He just like laughed. He was just sort of like, it reminds me of Danielle where I'm talking to her, the glasses pick up off my table and drop down next to my head. And I'm losing it. And she just says, oh, you got a little visitor, do you? And she laughs. Like certain people seem to know about this stuff on a level that I don't. And yeah, but to finish here and to talk about what you're saying about, you know, vegetarianism and the UFO phenomena, the Fae phenomena. If you listen to some people that talk on the show, they say that the Fae are vegan. They don't eat living things. They eat like plants only, basically. To answer your question in the email that I didn't answer before, but I'll answer here for you and for the audience. I went vegan almost 20 years ago after I was working on an organic farm and I participated in a pig slaughter firsthand. And I mean, yeah, it's terrible. People think, bacon, but pigs have faces.
No, the noise they make is horrific.
It's horrific. The face on a pig is structurally just like a person's nose, eyes, mouth, forward-facing eyes. They're smart as a dog. Think about all the cute little potbelly pig videos you think of on the internet, whatever. And I mean, it did not want to die. And we kill it anyway. And then it's gross. It's all like bones and veins and it's just sick. And then, you know, that's what you're eating. And that for me, after that experience, it was like, I had prior to that been an avid meat eater and was relishing, if you would, the idea that I was going to work on an organic farm and get to eat this like good, clean, organic meat. I mean, just to show you how stupid you can be. I think I'm smart, but I was a meat eating, you know, sugary drinking fool. Like I just was a fool. And I was born into that, so I can forgive myself now.
Yeah, just brought up that way, and you just take it for granted. Oh, everyone should eat meat. And yeah, as I say, I used to just, you know, not berate my wife, but, you know, I'd always sort of laugh at her for being vegetarian and stuff. But yeah, how things have changed.
Well, I think it's very interesting that you had a profound change of consciousness associated with seeing, like, because when you see these lights in the sky and then later you decide to go vegetarian by your own words here, you know, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I think that, like, to progress spiritually, I do think that the first stop on that journey is to stop eating suffering. Like, this is my basic take on things, and I'm not being a preachy vegan here. I really am not a judgmental person. I just talked about killing a pig and eating it. I mean, I've done that stuff. You can redeem yourself later on, but you do have to, at some point, take responsibility for your journey. And if you really do care about, for example, for some people listening, and maybe yourself included here tonight, Albert, like if you really do care about spiritually developing and figuring out what your life means and what it means to be here on earth, if you consume suffering, you cannot be well. It's just as simple as that. If you eat a tortured, suffered little carcass, in the case of beef, something that's months old, that's been aging, as they call it, basically just decaying on a hook. This is dead stuff. It died in fear. It suffered. It's basically caused another human to have to go kill that animal for you. That means that human suffered. There was all sorts of suffering down that entire chain, not the least of which maybe is even the butcher at your local grocery store who has to now pick apart carcasses for a living and serve them up to you. All that stuff, when you finally do put it in your body, chew it and swallow it, lives inside you. Everything I'm talking about, right? The protein molecules The protein molecules in the flesh are not what you're eating. If you follow me, you're eating all of that suffering. Now, your average peanut or bean, or, in my case, I primarily eat stuff that comes right from the tree that the tree was offering. So like, I'll eat a mango because the tree was giving it up. I'll eat a cherry because the tree was giving it up. Even like cultivated foods like potatoes and stuff, like a lot of that stuff. And I mean, this is me talking like an extreme raw vegan foodie here, but I mean, when you really start to analyze the impact from an internal perspective, so eat something and ask yourself, how is this making me feel? Eat another thing and ask, how is this making me feel? If you're honest about that, you're eventually going to end up eating like I eat, which is that you're eating what the offerings are incomplete. And like mangoes are a complete food. Cherries are a complete food. Things like your leafy greens are a little bit like less offered up. You're still like planting intentionally and then mowing down intentionally for harvest. But even that stuff, it doesn't have a face. It doesn't squeal and want, to run away while you're trying to stick a knife in it.
I've never been healthier since I've turned vegetarian, definitely.
It's the way to go. And I do think, just to kind of wrap it up,
cliche about this life journey, it all sounds a bit twee and stuff, but I suppose it is, it's just a progression. Headed in the right direction anyway, that's for sure.
Albert, I appreciate being able to talk to like a family man about this. And your wife is an angelic presence if she's been vegetarian around you.
I'll give you a funny one about that. It was nothing moralistic or that made her become vegetarian. To begin with, anyway, she was about 12-year-old. It was because her mother was such a bad cook. All this meat, and it was just chewy and inedible. So her and her sister both decided to become vegetarian because she couldn't, mess that up quite so much. But then over the years, obviously, she's grown to, go more into the animal welfare side of things. But yeah, originally it was just because the lack of decent food.
It's interesting too, because you talked a moment ago about how like you no longer feel the desire to eat meat, and it actually starts to kind of repulse you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot, that we could end up going way off in the weeds on in this podcast, talking about this particular subject matter. But this is a fairy-related conversation, actually, right? And so Bonnie and Therese say that the Fae are vegan. Alara from Alara and the Elf, in direct contact with an elf, again, say that the Fae are vegan. My first guest, Ron, talks about how the Fae are vegan. He also talks, interestingly, about how when you eat, like if you're open to this idea of the Fae around you all the time, and you are eating in a vegan or vegetarian way, you can say to the Fae around you, this is according to Ron, hey, if you guys are hungry, you can eat too while I eat. And he describes, in effect, the Fae entering through your third eye and like charging up like a battery would while you're physically consuming the calories in physical food. So like you're eating the physical food, transforming it into caloric energy. The Fae are charging up from that caloric energy their spirit energy, if you would. And what's really weird about that is like when I first started the show, I talked to Ron quite a bit, and he was sort of telling me all this like knowledge stuff offline about the Fae, you know, quite a lot. And he said to me, he said, you might get short headaches if you try it, but he says to me, the Fae are all over your place and they want you to do it. This is the message he was giving to me. And so I tried it for a while, and it was the weirdest thing too. It's again going into that chart of weird stuff. Again, I don't know if I'm just like tricking myself, because you can do that pretty easily. You can psychosomatically convince yourself of all sorts of crap that isn't true. But I would say out loud, I'd be like, okay, fairies, like I'm going to eat this giant bowl of cherries now. And I would get these like not unpleasant, but burst cluster headaches right between my eyes while I was eating. And I would describe it to Ron, and he says, yeah, that's what it is. Those are fairies that you're giving permission to, popping right into your third eye and eating while you eat. And he's like, he himself eats fish. And this is like, I mean, I'm just connecting the dots because of what we're talking about. This is a conversation that happened back in February, 26 episodes ago. He's like, he says, just quite quickly, he says, yeah, I eat fish, but the fairies don't like that. But I eat fish for human reasons, but the fairies are vegan. And he says that in the first episode, and I almost didn't hear it, you know, because his episode is garbled. But then imagine my surprise that as I get deeper into this, what is starting to reveal itself to me is maybe that fairy that I saw showed itself to me so powerfully and set me on this path of starting this podcast, in part because it can read your soul, and it knew I'm a vegan, animal rights defending, you can't tell me what's right when I know something's right kind of person. Like, you know what I mean? Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. That's why I started selling cannabis against the pharmaceutical company. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. That's why I started to, you know, go toe to toe against the whale washing industry, harassing critically endangered animals for profit, et cetera, et cetera. You know, when you're talking about the Fae message that you're receiving, don't even think about it. They're able to maybe read your thoughts months separated, know what you're thinking about doing in real time while it's about to happen. You're not the only person who suggests that the Fae can do that.
I don't know if it's, yeah. No, I don't know if it's the Fae doing it or what, but sometimes I'll answer problems I have, you know, in dreams, sort of thing. You know, whether it be technology related, you know, how to do a certain thing on a computer, or if something breaks down. I work with a lot of machinery and the likes, and sometimes, you know, it could take days to figure out a way to override something. But normally it'll come to me in just a kind of visionary dream, really clear, crystal clear message, right, this is what you need to do. So I don't know if it's coming for them or not, but yeah, I think they can certainly look deep into your soul, and yeah.
To continue this thought pattern, and man, I really gotta say, Albert, I appreciate you allowing me to kind of get, again, so speculative during this interview. I know my interview style, and I can tell I've talked a lot here, but it's just because you're like really getting me going on some certain things. Like, you know, Bonnie and Therese, she physically asks, can you help me find my glasses? The glasses return the next day. But Jem, after looking for her wedding ring for 3 years, she describes like asking her husband, hey, have you found your wedding ring? And he's like, no, I still haven't found it, hon. And it'd been 3 years, so she wasn't really expecting him to say yes. And she just thought inside her head, can you just please help me find this wedding ring? And she was thinking it to the Fae, but she didn't say it out loud. And then she returns an hour later to find the wedding ring on her deck. So, I mean, like, I don't know if they can read every person's thoughts all the time, but it does seem like certain thoughts that you think can reach the Fae. It certainly seems that certain things that you say out loud can reach the Fae. Like in my case, it would seem that things I'm working on a computer, basically in that case, I am thinking thoughts in my head, but I'm thinking about a work process on a machine, they can pick that up. But then they can also conversely reach you with thoughts into your own head. Like the guest from Nocturnal New Zealand talks about mind speak. Multiple people, in fact, do. That's part of what I think makes the reaction from people you tell about the Fae so aggressive, because it scares the living bejesus out of people to think that there's a invisible entity that can know your heart.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's just strange how, as a kid, the Fae are, fairy tales, and they're, you pretend they're real to kids and that, and then they're told, no, they don't exist, and then, yeah, it just messes with folks' heads. It's the kind of roller coaster of, yeah, they're real, no, they're not, yeah, they are, yeah, but it's certainly causes a nasty reaction in some people. They just can't process it. It's bizarre.
A roller coaster is a good way to put it. That's a really good insight. And actually, with that beautiful segue, what we'll do here is, out of respect for your time and the audience's time, we'll wind things down tonight. Albert, I'd like to ask this question of every guest that comes on the show, and I know you've listened to the show, so you probably know what I'm about to say here.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer or right answer, as I usually preface this question with, but I would like to know what you think. And I know we've been talking about it, but I don't think I've actually asked you this. Again, this is just about collecting your opinion, so feel free to give whatever answer comes to your heart. What do you think fairies are?
That's, yeah, the $1 million question. It's like asking what are animals. One person could see an elephant and another person an octopus, and both would probably be arguing with each other. No, you're wrong. This is what they look like. And when one's massive and the other's a shape-shifting, strange thing. So I think it just covers such a wide variety of things. I certainly believe that they're on a different plane, different reality. That's without a doubt, because I actually seen one appear from what appeared to be a kind of portal-type scenario. But yeah, it's just, who knows? I'll live the rest of my life trying to find out. That's for sure. When I saw that one, it changed my life forever. And yeah, it'll just be a bit of an ongoing quest, I suppose. And I don't suppose I'll ever know the answer. That's the beauty of it. As I say, for everything you think you see or find out, it just opens up a host more questions. So.
Yeah, as the famous song by Kanon, a Canadian artist, goes, any man who knows a thing knows he knows not a damn thing at all.
Very true.
I love how you said that. It likes asking what are animals, right? If I said, yeah, animals have 2 eyes and 4 feet, well, I mean, no. What's a seahorse then? What's a bird? It's like,
yeah, you've only seen a rabbit. How would you describe other things? You wouldn't believe them.
I don't usually ask this question, but I'm going to ask you because you definitely saw it come from another place. Do you think that other place is elsewhere, or do you think it's overlapped here on Earth?
Personally, I think it's overlapped. I think it's all around us. It's, it's like the light spectrum. We only see a small part of it. That's been proven. I think it is all around us, and just through certain set of circumstances, it can transform into a kind of more visual thing. But yeah, I firmly believe it's all around us.
I agree. I agree with that. I tend to agree with that. Absent any actual facts or empirical evidence capable of demonstrating proof to an objective listener, I still agree with that.
We'll never get.
If I just take everyone who I'm talking to at face value, it would seem to track with just about every single encounter that the overlapping veil is truly overlapping, meaning it's like it's interesting because if the veil was gone, if you think your cities are overcrowded to begin with, if the veil was gone, you might be surprised at just how much is actually living around you.
That's it. You think you own a house and a garden, but you don't know what else is here, living in the same space.
Yeah, and who is the true owner?
Exactly.
And what are you just an occupant who also like,
I think they grudgingly put up with me. That's about it. I'll do things to please them sometimes, and that's all you can hope for. Don't piss them off too much, and you're doing okay.
if I'm like thinking about this, like we're talking about, and the Fae are an entire other overlapped society, they're a bunch of patient people, because I wouldn't put up with human neighbors like us.
They must get a good laugh sometimes, though.
Indeed, right? And also, like, actually, this is not my insight, but it belongs to Bonnie and Therese more than anyone who's come on the show. They want us to wake up to their presence, and they would like us to work in conjunction with them again and move all of ourselves back towards a more golden age here on Earth, one in which everybody is vegan and all of the living things are revered and all the war stops, and we just learn how to like share and be in amazement of what we've got instead of fighting over all this terrible pain and suffering that we basically create for ourselves.
It would be lovely, wouldn't it? It really would.
Yeah, there's more than enough food produced to feed everyone in the world. There's more than enough space and water to get everybody sorted out, but we spend our time fighting and killing, and
long as folk are making money out of it.
But it is inspiring to talk to a man like you later in life, going vegetarian. And it's also, I think, very valid that it would come in conjunction with yet another remarkable sighting, of something that doesn't quite fit with our reality. Misty from Remember the Rose, not that she's vegan, but she has this great point towards the end of her episode where she says, a quote from the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, be kind, especially when you're not exactly sure what's going on, and so this conversation has been full of kindness, the kindness emanating from your heart with your time, for sure, but also the kindness born of those insights of going vegetarian and being able to talk with another person about like the value of life and stuff. I really appreciate that about tonight. I think we're, pretty much getting towards the end. If it's okay with you, what I'll do here, Albert, is I'll do a tiny bit of housekeeping. While I'm doing that, I like to let my guests have the final word, so you can just think about what you want to say at the end here. And I'll just do my housekeeping now. So a quick note, I just checked in on the Spotify analytics before I started this show, and I crested 4,000 plays. Which is amazing. Oh. Yeah. What's really amazing about that too is I crested 3,000 plays just 11 days ago. And so that gives you a sense of how fast things are picking up. I've had more than one day where there's 100 plus plays on the show.
That's pretty good.
It is good. And I would also just like to let the audience know, I got reached out to by a pretty large podcast producer and distributor who has become quite interested in the highly engaging serial nature of the show. And so this is getting noticed all over the place. But even though that is happening, that is not my doing, because I have severe mobility issues, and most of the time that I spend on this show is making these episodes. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who has been posting about the show, sharing about the show. And I would also like to ask that you keep that going. I don't see any reason why this show can't have 1 million people listening to it on a monthly basis a year from now, because that's what I think the degree of interest in this subject matter really is about fairies. And I think that the longer this show keeps going with the positive vibes behind it, the more people are going to stop doing what Albert and I are talking about, which is reacting to fairy stories with incredulity and hate. And so feel power, like feel empowered if you like this show to go to my website, to grab the link for any one of your favorite episodes. The imagery is all there. The descriptions are all there. Go post it in a Facebook group that you're part of about fairies. Go post it in a Reddit group that you're part of. It makes a huge difference if it's not me. And I can barely do it as is. So this is already you guys responsible. I just want you to know it's working. You're doing a great job of promoting the show. And I would like you to feel empowered to keep it going. Because honestly, this show doesn't mean anything without people listening to it. It would just be me talking to no one. And with that said, the website is fascinatingfae.com. The socials are located at Fascinating Fae, everywhere you might want to find them, like Facebook and Instagram. And if you would like to be on the show and you've had an incredible, mind-boggling encounter with a leaf-shaped, interdimensional, color-changing, ultra-fast fairy like our guest Albert has tonight, drop me a line at encounters@fascinatingfae.com and I'll bring you on the show as well. Albert, thanks for your patience while I do that. I just want to let people know how much they're impacting the show's growth. And with all of that said, and with, again, a huge thanks on behalf of our human and non-human listeners tuning in to Fascinating Fae tonight, to Albert for his storytelling. The last word is all yours tonight, sir.
No, thanks for listening to my ramblings. It does me good occasionally. I don't get a chance to talk about it hardly at all. So, no, it has. It's been quite therapeutic. Thank you very much. And if you're ever over in Scotland, get in touch and I'll give you a guided tour of some fairy places.
Firefly, oh how you caught my eye. In the darkness of night, I look to you for light. The memories aren't what they used to be. We're changing endlessly into the new tonight. So look and listen, don't worry what you're missing out on isn't for you anyway, you see. And get to living with the hand that you've been given, darling. Promise that you will remember me. And melody, you are a mystery, how you capture me. Every once in a while, and lullaby, you make me wonder why the days are going by. And still I'm a child, so look and listen. Don't worry what you're missing out on isn't for you anyway, you see. And get to living with the hand that you've been given, darling. Promise that you will remember me. In misery, why won't you let me be? Can't you set me free? For good this time, tranquility. Why won't you stay with me? Keep me company. If you would, I would be fine. So look and listen. Don't worry what you're missing out on isn't for you anyway, you see. And get to living with the hand that you've been given, darling. Promise that you will remember me. Firefly, oh how you caught my eye. In the darkness of night, I look to you for light.